Hello, Annagreta. How are you today?
Hello, thank you. It's early morning, nice light. I did already yoga, so I still have a mess in my apartment, but otherwise everything is fine.
Yoga in the morning is a good way to start, huh?
Absolutely, make the juices flow.
Yep.
Mhm.
And the energies.
And I'm hearing the whole morning circus music. Charlie Chaplin is coming, and I hear. Yeah, yeah,
Getting
I
your
think.
getting your ears ready.
Yes, right. Hmm.
Well, we welcome also all our viewers from around the world. Thank you very much for following us. So we welcome also, of course, Charlie Chaplin. We're very honored that he has agreed to come through to speak to us. Such an extraordinary artist and film creator. We're very lucky to have him with us today.
Yes, I have respect. I do have respect, I tell you. Hmm.
So I will read just a few words about his life as an introduction.
Thank you.
Charlie Chaplin, excuse me, Sir Charles Spencer Chaplin was born in 1889, and he is an English comic actor, filmmaker, and composer who rose to fame in the era of silent film. He became a worldwide icon through his screen persona, the Tramp, and he is considered one of the most important figures in the history of the film industry. His career spanned more than 75 years from childhood in the Victorian era until a year before his death in 1977. And it encompassed both adulation and controversy. Many of his productions contain social and political themes, as well as autobiographical elements. In 1972, he received an honorary Academy Award for the, quote, incalculable effect he has had in making motion pictures the art form of this century, end of quote. Charlie Chaplin continues to be held today in high regard with The Gold Rush, City Lights, Modern Times, and The Great Dictator, widely considered to be among the greatest films of all time. And I'd like to add that I had the great joy of visiting a museum dedicated to Chaplin that opened a few years ago on Lake Geneva near Montreux, where he and his family had a beautiful house. And the museum is on that property, and you can go inside the house where Charlie Chaplin lived. And it's a great museum to visit. So I encourage people to go there if you're in the area.
Yeah, he died. He died in Switzerland. That's,
Yes,
yeah.
he
He's a
actually had to.
big family. Um,
Okay.
okay. I think yes, wait a second. I need a little. I always think I'm prepared, and then it's not enough. They're coming. Okay. Oh, I'm so excited. Give me, give me clear channel. Um, okay, darlings and viewers. So I'm going in a not a full trance, but a light trance. So, and you hear me at the end of the session. Ugh, excuse me. Uh, hello, everybody. Hello, audience. Most of my films were silent. I'm not used to talk to an audience anymore. I was shy, believe it or not, and I'm still shy when I come to you to speak. I was Mr. Charlie Chaplin, that was quite known on this planet. So what I'm telling you now is, of course, kind of fun. You know me for fun. But it's also kind of schooling. I never went to school, or as a matter of fact, only 1.5 years in the poverty of this time and due to the personal circumstances I was born in. I didn't go to school, life was my school. And the lifetime is still beneficial for me in the afterlife. In the afterlife, I still have the benefits from this incarnation. And I tell you, live your life in that way that you have a benefit after you die. The more you experienced, the more you did, the more you tried out, the more you fell on your nose, the more benefit in your afterlife. Use it. Use this lifetime. When I was alive, I took the hits of life. In my films, I took all hits of life. And in real life, I took all hits of life. And you could watch me and still watch me on your sofas and still laugh about that. I used to fall 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times. I fell from rooftops, I fell from ladders, I fell out of the window. I almost broke my bones to cause the laughter of you. And while I was taking all the hits, and you were laughing, please remember how fast I stood up again. Do you remember in my films? Of course, they were running very fast. And they were sometimes even made faster due to the producer who made the films. But I stood up again so fast. And I shook the dust off my shoulders. And then laughed and kissed a girl, or something like that. Excuse me. The lifetime I had was hard. My childhood was hard. I had 2 dysfunctional parents, but which were both artists. So I had everything. I had the poverty, I had the art, and I had the fight to survive on the streets, which made a huge impression to my life and which created a feeling, a psychology, a state of mind that I'm in a survival mode. So I had to fight for my life. I had to fight for each little bread that I could get. From early on, I was dancing and jumping and doing anything to catch the attention of people to get another piece of bread. You can say, oh yes, he was talented. Yes, I was, but I also understood very early that my talent was a tool for survival. So I improved it again and again. Yes, there was this playful inspiration that I had. I was very movable. My body was very good as an artist. I had pre-incarnations as artist. So I was good in using my body as a tool for the crazy ideas I had. But my life, my attitude for life was survival, and it didn't leave me until the end of my days. Even if I was famous, I still had this ground feeling I have to do everything to survive. So I worked so hard. I worked day and night, and I took all the 1,000 blue spots on my body and the hurts and the injuries and the sleepless nights. The dysfunctional childhood I had caused me also a lot of trouble later in my not really matured way to deal with women. And I was also, when I got more successful, not easy to work with. I had visions. I had strong visions to to create the most perfect expression in a film, to get the most touching face expression that will touch you. I had those visions and I was dedicated to it to bring it through. And so I was sometimes hard on my colleagues, hard to my children. I regret that. When I saw that in my past life review, I could see how I hurt people. And I regret that. By bringing through the biggest vision of my life, the biggest inner vision into life, I dismissed the visions of others. That is what I regret. So I was always in fear that this big mouth, this big black mouth of poverty would grab me back. And excuse me. The hardest thing was the survival. And I feared to be eaten from this big black mouth that I had internalized this poverty and this survival fight. So I was having a deep fear to get back to that place. I had no fear to do all those stunts and fall and jump from cars and jump under cars and fall into holes. All those extreme moves that my body did. I did not have any fear of that. When I had my past life review with my guides, they showed me 1,000 situations where they protected me and prevented accidents. They were countless. I always trusted spirits on a subconscious way that they would help me not to get wounded and would prevent me from having a sudden death, which could have been possible in some situations. But the third aspect in my life was bringing through the visions. So if I repeat, the first was the fear of getting back to poverty and not survive. The second was the point of my extraordinary risks that I took physically. And the third was a fear, a huge fear to not bring through the biggest expression, the deepest expression of the highest art. And so I treated some people bad, which I regret. Those 3 points were interesting for me to tell you. So what I can tell you outside there, if you have a hit, if you take a hit, stand up fast. It's not worth to stay on the ground and whine. You were coming to this lifetime to bring through your highest visions. Take care for your visions that you have and bring them out no matter what. Bring them out. If you catch a hit, look how I did it. I fell 1,000 times. I stood up 1,000 times. I blew the dust from my shoulders and I smiled. And I didn't even have a scratch, at least in the film. I didn't have a scratch. And that is what happens to you. You will leave this lifetime without a scratch. You are really not vulnerable in that way that you think. You can take a hit because your soul is invulnerable. So don't take it so serious. Don't take life so serious. And if you bring through the vision of your soul, bring it to the full extent. Bring it as clear as possible. Don't make a compromise. Bring your visions out of you like a flower needs to bring out his blossoming leaves. When I choose this lifetime, when I chose this lifetime, I knew I would be born in poverty. I knew about the mental health of my parents. I knew everything. And I incarnated in that time and that place because I had to study the poverty. I wanted to see human being in the most miserable state, in the deepest pain, in the deepest fight for existence, in dignity and the lack of dignity, because that is what poverty causes most, the loss of dignity. I studied that to the ground so I could express it later. I could express it and I wanted to give it a stage because the tramp that I created, the little tramp, was all of that. The poorest man trying to maintain his dignity and behave like a gentleman. The little man was kind of anarchist. He could survive absolutely everything. He was fighting against policemen. He was fighting against authority. He was fighting against the evil landlord. He was fighting against everything and survived, and nobody could break him. So for the people who went to the cinema and saw that little tramp surviving everything, and not only took the hits, but gave the hits, that's a creature, or this is a character that the people loved. And to see themselves, cinema was also for the poor, to see themselves fighting and surviving, hitting and being hit, and this was all huge comedy, was a catharsis for the people. It released their own pain, it released their own suffering. It also gave those who were rich and in political positions, gave them a demonstration and a deep understanding of the street fight of the people, of the survival fight. So I choose the poverty of my childhood. I choose the circumstances in the Victorian England, in the Charles Dickens England. I choose the orphans stage. I choose the not being schooled and not being fed and having to deal with all kinds of poverty like alcoholism, mental disorder, dirt, no hygienic, no good water, animals, rats, everything you can say. I choose that on purpose. So later on, I could be kind of a lawyer on stage, and comedy always transports the most tragic issues. It transports the most tragic issues in a way that people can take it with open heart. And the laughter always opens hearts. So I was bringing, in a funny way, the most tragic aspects of society into the mind of the people. And so I was kind of a speaker for the poor. I was kind of a lawyer for the poor. I was a kind of heart opener for the poor. So I was fighting for them and gave them a voice. And that was totally serious. That was no fun. I took that serious, and that had been my task for lifetime. This had been my task, using every cell of my body to express what I had to express and touch the heart of the people. And that was what I was proud of. When I came back, excuse me, still have feelings. That is what I was proud of when I did my life review with my guides and with the Lord, the Almighty. So that is what I have to tell you today. Thank you for listening. I'm always, if I had a melon, I would jump my melon from the head. But remember me as Charlie Chaplin, the man who took the most hits in modern film history.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Charlie Chaplin, for your very powerful and moving message. You had such a rich life, and you touched so many hearts. We are very lucky to have you today with us, and for all the movies that you made have changed the world in a positive way.
Yeah, he's not going to answer any questions anymore, but I think his answer was very rich and touching, so maybe we leave it like it is. If you would like to book a session with me, you can go to spiritsofannagreta.com, and I will happy to channel for you your spirits or whoever comes through. Yeah.
Perfect.
That's it for today, I think.
Yes. Well, that was wonderful. That was a very deep channeling that you did for us, Annagreta. Thank you very much. And we thank Charlie Chaplin for coming through. And thank you to our viewers. And we look forward to seeing you soon. And all the best.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you can go on Facebook, Spirits of Annagreta public, and then you can chat a little bit with us if you would like to. Okay, then.
Absolutely. Thank you, Annagreta. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome. Bye-bye.